Greetings, my fellow classmates and lovable teacher. Today, I will be presenting a poster of Coca-Cola, which I've created through the use of ADA, stereotypical representation, visual techniques, and persuasive language. My poster is based on the 1930s context, which is the same time frame as the novella To Kill a Mockingbird. What is ADA? ADA is an advertising strategy used to persuade the consumers into buying goods and services. ADA stands for attention, interest, desire, and action. Attention. Attention is one of the most significant ideas of advertising around the world. If the particular advertisement isn't attractive, therefore the audience wouldn't be intrigued. In this advertisement, the main technique used to gain attention is sex appeal. The picture of the lady exploits the idea of sex appeal towards men, which will gain their attention and in return persuade them into buying the product. Interest. Interest in a nutshell means the idea of keeping the audience hooked onto the advertisement, which then slowly convinces the audience to buy the product. The use of a descriptive language in my poster such as delicious, amazing, beautiful, and exquisite piece of art makes the audience wonder what it is, which then makes them continue reading the text and in result convince them buying the refreshing drink. Desire. Desire is a technique which goes hand in hand with interest. It is to convince the consumers that if they buy the product, they would have the feeling of satisfaction within. Desire has been exploited through the use of comparison. The idea of Coke being compared to the women gives a general idea of how amazing the drink tastes, which then persuades the consumers to buy the product. Action. Action is a technique which leads the customer to buying the product through a short, demanding sentence or sentences. I have utilized this technique by saying, "Make your choice," in the end of the advertisement, to give the consumer a direct order so that they can think about their next decision. Stereotypical representation. Back in the 1930s, the stereotypical representation was to use women as sex appeal in advertisements to get consumers. In those years, males were more financially advantaged, therefore most advertisements were based to satisfy their needs. The phrase sex sells was used commonly in the 1930s as the sexuality of a person does persuade the audience to buy goods of others. Visual techniques and persuasive language. The visual technique of sex appeal was clearly shown from the women. Sex appeal is a very powerful visual technique as it is an internal desire for males, and in the 1930s it was males who had financial advantage, therefore it is an extremely powerful visual technique. The descriptive language that was used to describe the Coke was similar to how the lady would be described. Through the comparison of the other two things, the consumer would be intrigued and persuaded to buy the product. Propaganda. In the 1930s, the propaganda of women being less capable than men were extremely harsh. A lady only exploited to be a person who stays at home or to attract the opposite gender in a sexual manner. The impact of this propaganda was pretty severe, as most women in the 1930s weren't allowed to have jobs due to them being a female. To wrap it up, the sexual context in the world of advertising in the 1930s were mainly depicting women as sex appeal. The reason why this is a very common technique is because it gives results. Through the use of sex appeal, descriptive language, and comparison, I strongly believe this is an effective poster in advertising a product in the social context of the book To Kill a Mockingbird. Thank you for your attention.